This is VESSY MINK. But wait, doesn't the music train start in 1 hour? Why am I here so early? Oh, you're really going to want to know this because this is the launch of a brand new show called Rising Stars. And in fact, I am inviting my co host up to the stage right now to talk to you about it. But before I do that, I would like to give a big up to Mr. BK Han in Singapore, the artistic director, executive producer of this show, and co founder as well. Thank you so much, Mr. BK Han, and to the whole team. Music Train could never happen without you. We're so excited to be launching this new series called Rising Stars because it needs its own show. And I'm going to tell you why as soon as I introduce you to Mr. Richard SELWYN BARNETT, who is in the studio with us today, the iconic producer, introducer, and amazing human being, my dear friend. Richard, welcome.
Hey, Vessy, good evening. How are you?
I am doing well, sir. How are you doing?
Apart from the reflections, I'm doing cool. I've had a busy week, and today I did an amazing Funky Shirt Lunch Club event where I had a film maker meet a designer, meet an artist, meet an author, and another guy who runs an art platform. And just it was like a table of 8 plus myself. Amazing people, and a lawyer, of course. And it's what I do. So I'm bring people together over breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the last 38 years.
Wow, I was just going to say it's nothing new for you to be in such company because you're kind of the guy that's been introducing everybody for, since the 80s.
Mid-80s it started. Exactly. It was October the 10th, the first one. So we're literally a couple of days away, 38 years ago. And I'd had obviously brown hair then, I was a lot thinner.
Oh, you're beautiful. I didn't straight up ask you, would you like to be the co-host of the Rising Stars? Because we've been kind of joking about a show for a little while. I mean, you've been introducing me to people for a couple years now, and we've had a few of them on the music train. And I'm just wanting to thank you, Richard, for actually being in my life. And I would like to officially invite you to be the co-host of Rising Stars, our new show presented by Music Train. Let's go.
Two thumbs to that one. Yeah. I think it's going to be a really good flow between us. We're going to have some exceptional guests. I mean, there are guys and girls in their 20s now who, the next sort of decade are really rising up fast. I've been watching their progress, and I'd love to bring some great people on board the show. And working with you, Vessy, it's going to be a real pleasure and entertaining too.
Oh, so fun. And you've already introduced me to amazing people. Harrison Hickman, the author, who just released a book. Maria Secor is an amazing connection. She was just on the music train, which, by the way, she sends her love. She can't stop talking about how much she loves you. And I was like, the love is reciprocated, Maria, because she knows you absolutely adore her. So what is next for us as Rising Stars hosts here? I mean, who is going to be our first host?
I think we're going to have a young... okay, so I think we can start with a young British actor stroke writer-director who's putting together his first feature film, A Life in 12 Notes, it's called. There's an original soundtrack. They're not using library music or, rock and pop and soul and stuff that we've heard before. This is all fresh artists, fresh music. It's a very poignant story. I don't want to ruin it, but it's about a musician who has early onset of Parkinson's, and then, so it's a bit of a tearjerker, but that's all I'm allowed to say. Yeah. Harry Courtney is his name. He's on LinkedIn as Harry Courtney. If any of your viewers watching this would like to reach out to him, and he's done short films, he's acted, and he's got a really good producer on board now. And he's hopefully going to meet me down in Monaco in about 3 or 4 weeks. So there's a sort of film festival happening down there.
I want to go. I want to be there one day, Richard. One day we shall meet in person. And speaking of which, this is water, but I would like to cheers. I would like.
Well, I've got a bottle of.
That's okay.
Mineral. No alcohol.
To me neither. To Rising Stars. Yeah. And to you.
Chin chin.
Chin
Cheers.
chin.
Cheers. Oh. Lovely. Yeah. No. So. He would be our first guest, and then we've got Harrison Hickman, the author.
Amazing.
He's written a great book called A Life Called Scarlet. He's finished the final draft of the book, of course, and there'll be an advanced reader copy coming out later in the year. It's a very twisted, dark tale about the seedy underbelly of the music industry, the rise and fall of a girl band in the early 90s, but also the backstory from the 60s, 70s, 80s leading up to it. And then there's going to be 2 further books, which I can't say what the titles are yet because it's top secret.
Mm.
One will be a prequel set in 1980. I think it's in France at a
Wow.
music festival. And the other one will be the sort of sequel to A Life Called Scarlet, set in sort of, 2009, 2010,
Harrison
as
was
the
one of
band have evolved.
Yeah, Harrison was sorry for my interjection, but Harrison was one of the first people that you brought to the music train, and we have an amazing interview with him. And I was actually very taken and kind of sitting on the edge of my seat, wondering about this title, "The Life of Scarlet." Is just very intriguing, and I'm very
Mm.
excited to see that become the movie. I think that it's going to become. Is
I,
that in the
I
works?
agree.
Is that in the works?
Yeah, he's a big fan of a very famous film and television writer called Tony Grisoni,
Mm,
who worked with Terry Gilliam on Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. He wrote for that film, and Red Riding Trilogy was his best three-parter for
amazing.
Channel 4. And he's just a great writer, Tony. I've known Grisoni since the early 90s. See, my life has been meeting people really in film and television and music and business and arts and entertainment,
I mean, I remember
and
first
other
hearing you.
sectors as well.
I remember first hearing you in Consuelo Benson's Field of Dreams on Clubhouse, which now that app, I can't even get back in that app now. The whole thing's changed. I think that they've done a rebranding,
Mm.
which I'm glad for that. But I mean, it's just amazing because I heard you speak kind of for a good 15 minutes in there about what you've done. And I was very intrigued. And I was like, let me reach out to him on LinkedIn, see if he's there. And you responded right away. And I was so excited about that because to me, right away when I heard you speak, I said, this guy has seen the world. He has
Mhm.
had amazing experiences, and that was the beginning of our friendship. And you've since then introduced me to so many people. I mean, I so we had to make a show. So Rising Stars, we had to do our own show. Music Train
It's going to
presents
be
Rising Stars.
amazing. We're going to have. I mean, we're going to. It's really more about the guests than us, I guess, in a way. It's
Absolutely.
about us as well, but mainly about the guests and who they are and what they're going to achieve and what they've done so far and their futures. And if I can, be the winds beneath their wings, to
Yes.
quote something I told you ages ago, I can help them. I can introduce them to some great people. My main thing, as you know, has been introductions.
Yeah.
Starting in October '85, my very first and most successful introduction was actually that month, 38 years back. And it was a property deal. It was nothing to do with entertainment. It was two very wealthy guys that I brought together. And
Nice.
from then on in, it was just a lot of luck. And you walk into a room in a party and you bump into someone and they know someone you know, and then they introduce you to that somebody. I mean, sons and daughters of A-listers, loads, could list them off. And also the A-listers themselves. And then over the years, the people behind the A-listers. So there was like sort of, producers, directors, writers, authors, songwriters. I mean, guitarists, all types of people who were very talented in their own little,
What I love
niche.
about you so much is that you're focused on the whole. I mean, the entertainment industry is
Mm,
gigantic.
mm,
It doesn't just exist because there's one person that's the shining star. You have a team of people that have been working to help these talents succeed for years, possibly
mm,
even from the
mm.
beginning of their, debuts, I suppose.
Well, looking back at a lot of them, yes, a lot of them have gone, gone to great places. Some of them haven't gone anywhere, but it just depends who you're talking about now.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I've produced or exec produced really and funded a ballad by Andy J. Ross, a great songwriter, composer, and pianist, after he survived a terror attack. And I was most proud of that
Wow.
introduction to his childhood hero, a guy called Benny Troy, sadly no longer with us, who was a
Mm,
sort of northern soul superstar based in New Jersey. I reached out to his cousin Vinny, who was also his manager. Vinny Esposito, of course.
mm,
She was the lady that discovered Christina Aguilera, which I didn't know,
amazing.
and her husband Michael, and they got her, I think, signed to one of the labels. And then there was a producer up there called Billy Terrell from Philadelphia, and he
Mhm.
produced hundreds of R&B acts. The Manhattans were one of them, and
Wow.
Helen Reddy, and um,
Woo!
he did Benny. He produced a lot of Benny Troy songs. So I got to know a lot about the Northern Soul scene during 2011 when Andy had brought me this ballad and said, "Look, I wrote this in the aftermath of a terror attack. Listen to the lyrics. Listen to the backing singer was I think she was called Sabrina. She was the cousin of there was a boy band at the time
Mm,
called Blue, a British boy band, and the guy in Blue, Simon Webb, I think it was his niece or something. But I listened to the track, and it was sung by an X Factor finalist or Pop Idol finalist, and it was very good, but not great. And I've always
Yeah.
said to people, you've got rising stars, stars, superstars, megastars, and we're focusing on rising stars.
Yes, yes. Which I
Um,
love. I love it so much because I think that you've been watching many people kind of in that, and now you have a show. I mean,
mm,
I can't say it enough. Thank you so much for wanting to do this, because I was beside myself thinking, how am I going to get all of these people on the music train? We have 12 segments, 12 segments in 3 months. Is that correct? Yes. 12 segments in 3 months, and we take 1 week off, and then we do the next series. So actually, the next series of the music train, we're focused on episode 11 this Sunday. Actually episode 12, because that's on the, yeah, episode 12. But anyway, nevertheless, rising stars is a thing. It's always been a thing. And the real stories of how these people got to where they became mega superstars,
yeah,
some of them,
yeah.
because obviously not everybody can get to that. You have to kind of do everything right. I don't even know if that sounds correct, because some people think that you can kind of, you know, you can cater it exactly and the outcome. But if the person who is, let's say, becoming more well known loses some sort of ability to remain in reality, if you will, because of all the like action that they're getting, all the eyes on them. What kind of advice do you have for rising stars, Richard, with regards to kind of
Well,
like becoming who they're meant to be in the industry and not falling to the charms of the
I
industry?
think well, I mean, I've never really given that type of advice, Vessi, but I would say to the rising stars out there,
Yeah.
you've got to keep on, knocking on doors. Don't fear rejection. It will happen. You'll be rejected, but there'll be one door that will open, and then your talent will, will shine from within, and you'll be able to hopefully get signed or get commissioned to make a TV series. Depends on what you're doing. Plus, also you've got us. I mean, LinkedIn is a very good initial way,
Absolutely.
platform-wise, like a great way of reaching out to people who are like-minded, and you can actually add people on LinkedIn. I only started really getting into LinkedIn in 2020 when there was a lockdown,
Hmm.
and I'd had it since 2007, but I never really paid much attention to it. So I was doing
Same.
a lot of physical meetings, and I was still doing proper introductions face to face. Then we had the lockdown, and we weren't allowed to go and do that. So I discovered LinkedIn. I really worked it hard, and I've done some good introductions through LinkedIn. That's how I think we met. Was
Yeah.
it the
Well,
Clubhouse or something? I
Clubhouse
think.
to LinkedIn, because you said I have a LinkedIn pro. I asked you a question.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
intriguing to me right away. And I just said, "Hey, Richard,
Mm,
I'm a
mm.
singer songwriter. I might have sent you some music."
I
And
love your
then
music. I love your
thank
voice, and I
you.
love the. Obviously, everyone says this, but I love the pink guitar.
Yeah, thank you. That's Sheena.
I
She
love
has a name,
Sheena.
Sheena.
Sheena's lovely, and
you
I'm
know,
sure at the end of this episode, if you call it, the first of many, hopefully,
yes.
you will play a little bit of guitar for
I
us
would
and
love
the
to.
audience
I
and
would
stuff.
love to.
Mm,
I'm going to need your help to write a song, because since it is still Music Train presenting Rising Stars,
mm,
you need to help me write the song. So, the whole show is conceptualized in Connect Club with guests giving one word each.
mm.
And then I wrote something in the moment. So I'll need your help. I don't know what your few words are going to be, but we are going to write it together, Richard.
I'll be thinking. But Vessi, going back
Yes.
to how do you help rising stars get
Yeah.
to another level?
Yeah.
You have to introduce them to the right people.
Right.
They've got to be trusted people with good track records, good reputations,
Mhm.
great behaviour, hopefully within their industries.
Yeah.
And there's only a handful actually out there
It's true.
that I've met who I really would trust implicitly.
Yeah.
I've
That's
got
the
a
thing.
great entertainment lawyer who does all the legal stuff. I've got a good accountant and
Mhm.
financial advisor. I don't want to drop names, but I
Oh,
actually
you don't
know
have.
the people personally. They've become friends over the
Well,
years.
you've been built.
Trusted friends.
You've been building for a long time. I think anyone that's met you
Well,
knows that about you.
yeah, I mean, the thing is, Vessi, I've been building databases since the mid 80s, databases of people. I've been compartmentalizing each database.
Hmm.
I've been, building sort of private walled gardens and then
Mm,
inviting people to a picnic within the private walled gardens.
amazing.
Yeah, that's been one thing I've done.
So you love to do events. I mean,
Oh yes,
you're
sorry,
an
yeah. And
events.
the last so what's evolved over the last 30 odd years? In the last 8 years, I started the Funky Shirt Lunch Club, which is the FSLC, with
Ooh.
Teo Hendricks, who's the daughter of
Wow.
Jimmy, and Tony Klinger, who's quite famous for his
Yes.
rockumentary with
Yes.
The Who, The Kids Are All Right.
Amazing.
His father made Get Carter, and his father also launched Polanski's career in the 60s with Repulsion and Cul-de-sac. And Tony
Incredible.
Klinger is a veteran filmmaker and producer. And then a guy called Adrian Silas, who did some of the best private parties ever in the history of the UK back in the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Private parties, yeah. And then a guy called Bill Morrow, who launched Angels Den in 2007, the same time as I launched IWIC.
Angel's Den.
IIWIK.
Angel's Den.
Yeah, the largest database of business angels and investors.
Wow.
Initially in the UK, but it rolled out across the globe. And 94% of their investments are still in business today.
Holy smokes, that is incredible.
They provided more than just the money, but Bill and I got on really well, and he used to work for Richard Branson in the 80s. So we knew a lot of mutual friends, and I was introduced to him at a cocktail party in a London hotel in 2007. So we just launched exactly at the same time his Angels Den and my iswhoyouknow.com. That's what it stands for, by the way, Vessy.
Yeah.
IIWYK. We
Yes.
pronounce it as IWIC, just for shortening.
And I love that. To me, it makes me think just of a candle and kind of the flame.
Yeah,
and kind
the
of just
eye-to-eye contact in a
Yeah.
meeting. EYE was you meet people face to face. You look at them in the eyes and you get to know them.
Which, by
And
the
then
way,
the candle. Sorry.
which is sorry, pardon me. Which is, Richard, the best way to get in touch with you? Where can people find you? LinkedIn, is that the best place, or are you on X? Are you on formerly Twitter? That app, I'm on that app so often. That's my favorite app.
I use Twitter and Facebook for animal rights campaigns and saving the planet, that kind of stuff. Yeah, just to promote that. But I really, and occasionally Instagram, but I'm mainly on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And I think it's a serious professional network, of course.
Yes.
And it's well established, and you can hand pick and choose who you connect with, obviously.
So you're open to receiving fan mail. We saw you on.
Yay!
Yeah. All right. Wonderful. Okay.
I mean, I just as an example, I've got a book just to show you and the readers. This is a gentleman by the name. Sorry, there he is.
Wait a minute. Ooh.
Is that
John Altman? Wow.
So this guy, John Altman, is one of the greatest composers, and he has worked on over 50 feature films, hundreds of TV series, and commercials, won Oscars, BAFTAs, Emmys, Tonys. He's won it all. And his life is extraordinary, and he will hopefully be a guest on the Music Train.
That would be amazing.
We're trying to do a TV series about him at the moment, maybe a documentary or rockumentary. Don't want to say too much in case it doesn't happen.
Right, of course. I think that's also a big deal with introductions. I love to introduce people too. I love to connect people. That's one of my favorite things to do, just because, if somebody reminds me while they're speaking that, if that synapse goes off, I was like, oh, those two people need to meet each other. Does it always happen? Not always, but when it does, it's magic. And it's actually a really amazing skill to just have that like labyrinth of information in your beautiful brain.
You can never
file.
But Vessy, you can never guarantee the outcome of an introduction. I've always said that to people.
Yeah.
You've just got to put your best foot forward and try and make sure that the people you're introducing are going to work well together and gel, and there's got to be harmony and trust, and all these elements, like the reputation and the credibility and the behaviour and what they've actually done before as well is quite important. Some of the rising stars, they're in their 20s, so we don't know where they're going, but we know that they are definitely talented.
And they need the support also of people they can rely on. And I think that's usually where it kind of like can end up not being such a good thing for a rising star, when they've put their trust into entities or circles that aren't actually at their level of ability with regards to just being a great management team, a launch team, people that recognize their talent, that they can trust.
No, I mean, I agree. I think, sorry, I'm just adjusting the camera here, but now if you can hear me clearly, I would say that, there's so much talent out there, but you can never cover everything. You've just got to focus on a few really key people and help them and give them as much time and energy and effort as you can afford to spare. And But it is, with me, it's about connections. It's about, I like your Music Train logo. I've just seen the bottom of the screen. Unlock, connect, create. Absolutely true.
BK Han, that's his. He said, "What do you
BK
think of these?"
Han,
Yeah,
I'll just say to BK Han, you're a great guy.
he
Thanks
is.
for this opportunity.
Yes.
And you're very, very, very talented, my friend.
He really is. And what's so funny, thank you, Richard, for saying that. What's really funny is that when I met BK Han, it was the beginning of NFTs for me. I hadn't heard yet really about them so much, except from Naomi Campbell in a clubhouse room called United Artists, where they were talking about giving your rights away when you sign a contract. It took her 9 years, I believe, to get her own images to be able to use them in her book. And she said, don't ever give away the rights to your digital assets. Don't ever give away your rights to your NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens, which are basically a receipt for the art that you create. So one day, Mr. Han came into a space for the Funky Eye Puppets, which, I don't know if you know about the Funky Eye Puppets. You might know, but we're the next Muppets, and vibrato, that was my role. And I'm a voice actor as well. And so that was an amazing thing to just find I Paint Creatures in Jason Rothberg's room. Do you know Jason Rothberg from
Yeah,
the Sync
lovely guy.
Report show?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So Jason,
Mm.
I had met at Sync Summit with Mark Frazier, who does this like 100 keynote speaker deep dive. And, after a 3-month songwriting with Kathy Heller and Catch the Moon, basically. And that's actually how I really found you as well, ultimately through Clubhouse, through that actual
And I seem to
event.
remember, Vessy, didn't you have a story about Guns N' Roses,
I
Chris
do.
Penn?
I do have a story. Yeah,
I
Chris
mean,
Penn.
you
Oh,
you
my
you
friend.
you've been around. You don't mind me saying you've been around as well in around the music scene more
Yeah,
than the
you
or
know,
film and music.
yeah, Richard, at 22 I moved to Los Angeles with a big dream to, make it in the music industry. I was there for 10 years. One of the first things I did was I went to Venice Beach to play guitar on the boardwalk after I heard a blues man actually sitting there playing the blues. And
Wow.
the sandbanks were so high up because it was February. And
Wow.
when in February in California, especially on the beach, they were just like, I don't know, 15 feet high, 20 feet high, the sandbanks from the water and the propulsion of the waves. But the thing is that my manager at the time, the reason that I met her was because I was playing on the boardwalk, and she went by on her rollerblades and stopped, and there were a few people there. I was busking. I had my guitar case open, and she stopped, and she is very good friends with Matt Sorum, the drummer from Guns N' Roses, and
Oh yeah, of course,
also
he's a great drummer.
Velvet Revolver. He's also a singer-songwriter himself.
Oh wow.
And he's married to Ace Harper, who's an amazing singer-songwriter herself, and they actually are new parents. In the past few years they've become parents, and so I'm just super excited for them. And I think he's writing
That's
a book.
fantastic.
Matt's
Really
writing
good.
a book.
Oh wow.
But yeah, he did the demo drums for our 3-song with Lenny Cordola, and that was the beginning for me. Also, I met Steve Lindsay at Guitar Center, who I always say is the beginning also of my Los Angeles meeting people like David Bearwald, working for David Bearwald, who did Welcome to the Boom Town and wrote with Tuesday Night Music Club with Sheryl Crow, who had a studio in Venice Beach called Palindrome. And when I met Steve Lindsay at Guitar Center, I was just kind of trying out a guitar for the first time on Sunset Avenue at that Guitar Center. And some man is like kind of listening to me kind of off. And I'm like, who is that guy? And I'm just like playing my songs and kind of digging the vibes in Guitar Center. When you go in there, if you've ever been there, you can kind of pick up an instrument and do your thing, and kind of, some people may be listening, and you can meet people there. And so he started to tell me about songwriting, about getting a 4-track recorder, about not always writing about love songs. So he kind of became my mentor in a really big way. He had a publishing company, still does, I think, called Windswept Music, taught Dr. Dre music theory, has some of the greatest songwriters on deck, and has put out some of the great music that we've heard from some of the biggest stars in the music industry. But he's friends with David Bearwald, and so that's how I met David and became kind of the session cook. I'd make like Bulgarian peppers for like Jim Keltner, who played session drums for the Beatles.
Fantastic.
Buckethead was in there. You had the Chili Peppers, you had Flea, and all these,
amazing musicians.
Yeah,
the last time I was
Waddy Wattel,
really?
who plays for Stevie Nicks. Yeah,
I know.
just amazing guitar player.
And you were around that whole scene. I last time I was in Venice Beach. was October 1987.
Wow.
So that gives you. I
Yeah.
was 20 years old. I was a young guy. I
What
was
did you
traveling
think?
around LA. I was going to. I mean, it was a cool place to go. You know, it was
Yeah.
a good vibe. I hired a Corvette when I got there. It was a long story. I won't go into it, but I
Mm,
ended up hiring a Corvette,
mm.
driving around LA with John Antin, the hairdresser at the time, who
Wow.
was LA's top hairdresser. He had a
Amazing.
brand called Dirt, and he knew all the rock and pop and film and movie
What do you
stars
mean
in
he
LA.
had a brand? His
He
hairdressing
had a
brand
yeah.
was called Dirt.
Dirt, and Jonathan was his Beverly Hills salon, and that was after I left LA. I mean, this is going back to when we were
Interesting.
20 year olds. But me and him hung out. We had a good vibe, and we went around. We went to parties and hotels, and I took him. Obviously he took him to a few places that he hadn't been to before. But it
Yeah.
was interesting. Yeah, so I was out there for 3 months. That was my Hollywood introduction.
Oh
And
my
I met
gosh.
some really good people actually during that time. And obviously, John's sister, Robin, went on to create the Pussycat Dolls, of course. She was a
What?
choreographer.
Oh my
And
gosh.
Steve Antin, his brother, who was an actor in The Goonies and a film called The Accused, although it was called, when I was out there, the title was Reckless Endangerment. But it later became The Accused. Dawn
Yeah.
Steele produced it with Ned Tannen and the people at Paramount Studios, and it was a hit. Jodie Foster, Kelly McGillis were in it. They only got Kelly
Amazing.
McGillis in it because the year before The Accused, she'd been a star in Top Gun with Tom Cruise, another Paramount hit.
Amazing.
So I got to know a few people. I used to hang out at the Chateau Marmont. That was my scene,
Hey,
my
I was
vibe.
there. I was there a couple times. That's an amazing little
I
bar.
loved that. Yeah, and the
Love
Beverly
that
Hills
little vibe.
Hotel,
Yeah.
Beverly Hilton, anything that was around, and also those clubs, the Rainbow and the Roxy.
Played
You know,
both
I
of
mean,
them.
they
Yeah.
everyone was going in the '87. They were going to these places. You
I
know,
met.
Tower Records was there, the famous Tower
Oh
Records.
my
You know,
gosh,
yeah.
record store.
I
There's
remember the
a better
Beverly
one.
Centre. There was the Beverly Centre, like the shopping mall. We used to go to the Beverly Centre. You know, it was. But I was really not really. I was much more connected back in the UK, and so when I got back in January of '88, I embarked on a new sort of venture, and I moved back into my apartment, which I'd rented, and I just did other things. You know, I had lots of other interests. Music and film are my passions. That's why I love them so much.
Yeah.
And I guess I've got an encyclopedic knowledge, in a way, of film and music from the 50s and 60s onwards, really. And I've met a lot of the musicians, the bands, the writers, and also some of the management and the agents and people like that. I don't want to drop. This isn't a name dropping type show, is it? Because
Well, it can be whatever we want it to be.
but no,
We want to know. We want to know. You know, I mean, it's
well, I mean, okay,
exciting.
I mean, you know, in the early '90s, I met Quentin Tarantino. It's very well known.
Oh!
It's well documented at a film festival.
Amazing.
Daniel Elias had come over from New York. He was a rising star then. Had won the Peabody Award or nominated for it, and he was about to do a documentary on 6 Degrees of Separation with the Fred Schapisi film, which starred Will Smith, a young Will Smith, and Stockard Channing from Greece. Remember Rizzo? Can't forget Rizzo.
No,
And
never.
Ian McKellen was in it, Sir Ian McKellen, and of course Donald Sutherland. Anyway, so Danny Elias took me to the first ever UK screening of Reservoir Dogs.
What?
Blew me away.
Chris Penn.
And we were in Leicester Square, and then obviously I think Harvey Keitel, Lawrence Bender, and Quentin came on after the film. There was some backstage stuff going on. We sort of met them very briefly, but they wouldn't we speak to them. And then a year later, I was one of Danny's friends was a girl called Shura. She's based in New York. She was the official photographer for Shots in the Dark, a film festival dedicated to crime films.
Shots in the dark.
Shots in the Dark, yeah. But it was up in Nottingham, which is like 100 miles from London or something, you know. So I thought, I've got to go. So I went up there, not knowing who I was going to bump into. She invited me. I was her plus one, I think.
Nice.
And I'm in the gents' toilets, and I just look around. There's a scruffy guy standing next to me. And I recognised him. I said, "You're the guy in Reservoir Dogs." He said, "Yeah, I also directed it." I said, "Oh, you're Quentin." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, funny who you meet in gents' toilets." You know, anyway. So he said, "Look, do you want to get a coffee?" And I said, "Sure." Because he said, "I've got to do a Q&A after Pulp Fiction, I think was showing, or maybe it was Reservoir Dogs and it was Pulp Fiction the year after. I can't remember.
Yeah.
So we went to the bar. He started asking me questions. He was throwing stuff at me very quickly, rapid fire, which was great. No, because the thing was, the best thing about it was I said to him, I've got an original VHS picture box cover of the Mac, the Richard Pryor film, The Mac, one of your favourite black
Wow.
exploitations. And I said a friend of mine used to roll with Melvin Van Peebles and know all these guys. And he was like, "Yeah, who's that?" And so I was telling him people I knew, and he was asking more and more questions about films and about videos. And it was like we had a great um, it was a
Meeting of the
great sort of
minds. Meeting of the minds.
connection. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
totally.
so it was more than just a guy, because people were coming up to him saying, "Hey man, can we have your autograph?"
Right,
And he was like,
right.
"Yeah, yeah, in a minute, in a minute." And
No,
so,
you
but
guys are
then,
like you know, that's pretty cool, man.
well, that we actually went outside to have a cigarette, I think it
Mhm.
was, and I was smoking at the time, obviously. And we're standing in the street in Nottingham, just me and him chatting. And then all these photographers came and started photographing us. I've
Yeah.
got a photo that everybody sees when they come into my. It's
Uh-huh.
outside there now,
Uh-huh.
a big black and white thing, of me with Tarantino.
Love it.
But before Tarantino, I'd met a lot of other people in the industry as well.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to
Amazing.
drop too many names, but yeah.
You're amazing, and I think people kind of they flock to you, Richard, because you know so much about people. You know so much about talent. You know so much about movies. You love it. As a boy, did you really kind of did you have like that love for it? Is there someone in your life that
Absolutely.
kind of
No,
like
well, this is what I'm saying. The guy, Daniel Elias, who's my mate from New York, who
Mhm.
went on to make 150 episodes and create the cult reality television show, Dog the Bounty Hunter, big hit across
Right.
America and
Amazing.
the world. We were childhood friends from the age he was 6, I was 5.5 or 6.
Mhm.
Andy J. Ross was a friend. They lived in the same North London suburban neighbourhood of Woodside Park, and we used to hang out. And so we just went to the cinema. Yeah, as kids, we went to see lots of James Bond films, and even we think we saw Grease and other films together. Jaws, I
Yeah.
think it was. Yeah,
Oh,
um,
that one is
and
such a scary one. Jaws is still to this day just terrifyingly real.
but this is before video. So in the 70s, you had vinyl records,
Right.
cassette tapes. You had obviously the cinema and
Yeah.
three channels on British television. Had BBC One, BBC Two, ITV. There was no other channels. You had to watch that, and you couldn't record anything. So if you missed it, you had
Right.
to wait, for maybe a year till it came back at Christmas time. We did a lot of stuff like outdoor stuff, activities, and kids in the 70s riding their bikes, climbing trees, playing in the fields.
Yeah.
Getting in all types of adventures and trouble and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And you never told your parents anything. You had to make up
Uh,
stories.
and
But yeah,
how
sorry, go on.
lucky, how lucky though, how lucky to somehow, be protected. I don't know. I
Mm,
feel like those adventures of boyhood and girlhood where we go
mm,
off and we do things we don't tell our parents. We're not thinking too much about it then, but when we have our own children, we're thinking about, well, gee, I wonder if they're telling me everything and do I really want to know? And they need to kind of like they have to get a taste of what it is to be independent and kind of like feel out situations and know inwardly, like, do I go in this direction or not? You know what I'm saying? Kind of your inner voice to have that discourse. I think you
mm.
have that talent to know who needs to meet who. I mean,
I mean,
iconic
in
producer.
school I was not academic. I couldn't really get along. I couldn't understand what the reason to go to school was, other than
Mm,
learn about what the curriculum was, and
mm,
stuff that really bored the hell. I got bored easily.
mm.
Um, so I was always daydreaming. Does that make
Really?
sense?
Yes, it does. It does. I have a child, the same boat, same boat.
And dreaming as well.
Mm,
And I kept thinking, what am I going to do with my life and my career? And the introduction in just happened naturally. Really, it
mhm.
really did. Maybe I was destined for meeting people, because I know when I was a really young child, my earliest memories are from 2 or 3 years old. I used to go out with my father, and he had one of the first electric sort of dental chairs that came out in the early 70s, I think they were.
Wow.
And we used to go to on a Saturday morning. He used to have emergency patients. He was an orthodontist just off Harley Street,
Mm,
and he's still around now. He's retired. He plays golf and does a bit of
amazing.
woodwork. But
I want to meet him. I want
he
to meet him.
he's very different from me. Very
Yeah.
a medical man, but he's a very serious
Mm,
professional, and I got a bit of that from him. He's
mm,
very obsessed with his career, and
mm.
so I thought, well, I'm not going to follow in those footsteps. But one thing I do remember was meeting a very attractive Dusty Springfield and who'd had something, a toothache or something. And then in 1970, right, beautiful woman, great
Wow.
voice, we love
Wow.
Dusty. And then I met her a year later. I think it was Richard Burton was on a set of a British film called Villain, And
Amazing.
I remember
Amazing.
the smell of cigarettes, you know, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he chipped a tooth on the set or done something. And that was, but I didn't know who they were at the time. It was only
Right.
later on in life when I realised, God, you know, I met these like kind of famous icons, right?
Yes.
And in the 80s, it was all about girlfriends and partying, and you know, only in the mid 80s did I really start getting serious
Mm.
with the introductions, and that's why here I am today, semi-retired for the last 8 years, sitting in a lovely old house in Margate that I've restored, which is a seaside town, by the way, in the southeast of
Beautiful.
England. Very artistic and creative here. They've been an influx of artists, musicians, filmmakers, and others, sculptors and poets and various other people, all around me. And two doors down, I've got Tracy Emin. She's a famous British artist, yeah.
Wow.
And behind me, there's an art gallery, and there's cafes and restaurants, and God knows what down
Sounds
here. Beautiful
lovely.
beaches,
Sounds
people
so
walking their
lovely.
dogs. Yeah.
Wait,
Um,
Timmy's World. Timmy's World. Do you live by Timmy?
Timmy's 10 minutes drive. Yeah, I met
Oh
Timmy
my
at the film
God.
festival. A lady who started a film festival called Sylvie Bolioli, who it was in its 6th year this year, asked me to come on board the festival and sort of bring some good people down to it, which I did. I brought my cousin who runs Altitude Films down in year one. I brought the lady who exec produced and greenlit the King's Speech, Joan Lane. I brought Dee Anson, whose mother created Thunderbirds, and Joe 90. You know, big names. I met Simon Boswell, the famous film composer there, and then I went to his
Ooh.
wedding. Simon Boswell, I thought, how am I going to introduce someone like Simon Boswell, a really iconic film composer, to his hero? Well, I knew Elliot Randall, who was in Steely Dan, you know, played Reeling in the Year, guitar on Reeling in the Years, and
Oh
also
my
on
gosh.
the theme song from Fame, Irene Cara's Fame.
Oh
And I
my
said to
gosh.
Elliot, would you like to join me at the Ivy one day and meet meet Elliot Randall? Would you like to meet Simon Boswell? He said, Simon Boswell, I love that guy. What career he's had. So the mutual
Amazing.
appreciation. And that was another great introduction, but they weren't household names, you know.
Right.
I mean, Elliot Randall was the soundtrack behind the Blues Brothers and the Warriors, Walter Hill's The Warriors, right?
Right. I mean,
These are
household
iconic
name.
films.
When you're mentioning household names, Richard, I mean, the magic to them. I mean, to them, that's like means the world. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well,
as far as
here's the connection. Elliot Randall knew my friend Genya Raven in New York. Goldie and the Gingerbreads in the 60s had a hit called "Can You Hear My Heartbeat." She was discovered playing a dive bar
can you
with
hear
with
my
her.
heartbeat?
No, no,
I
no,
know
no.
it.
You
That's not
have
that
to
one.
Google it. Goldie and the Gingerbreads.
Goldie and the
She
Gingerbreads.
is an iconic, trailblazing, maverick rock producer. Also a Holocaust survivor.
Wow.
She's an incredible. She wrote a book called Lollipop Lounge. If you ever want to promote or read a book, Lollipop Lounge
Wow.
is her book,
I
Genya
do.
Ravan. And I'd spoken to her a few times. She sent me a copy of her book. She said, "Can you get Tarantino to make it into a film?" You know, I
Oh
said, "I
my
don't know, not
gosh.
sure if I can, but I tried."
That would be
Um,
incredible.
and she knew Elliot Randall. You know, and it was this again. It was this. She's based in up near Woodstock in New York, but it's all these connections that know people who I know. It's a wonderful world out there. You know, I mean,
It's a
yeah.
beautiful tapestry. It's a
Mm,
beautiful
mm,
tapestry,
mm.
and it's all intertwined with music and film.
Yeah, and I'm still passionate every day. I watch, listen to music every day, dance around the kitchen. It's a bit embarrassing the way I
Yes,
dance,
no,
but
I love
I'm
it.
still.
Yes.
I think I'm still disco dancing from the 70s and 80s. You know,
Do, do,
a bit of
do, do,
exercise.
do.
What else do I do? I cook. I love cooking. I've got recipe books. I do a
Okay.
lot of sort
What's
of
your
organic.
Okay, I was gonna say, what's your go-to? You're having a friend over for dinner for the first time. What do I get if I'm coming to your house for dinner?
Well, it'd be some sort of vegetable curry, I would imagine.
Yum.
It could be a Thai or an Indian. It could be
Yum.
I'm doing sort of all types of dishes. A lot of vegan and
Yeah.
vegetarian burgers and sausages and lots of like
Yeah.
fruit and veg. I don't know, listen, spices and God knows what. You know,
Beautiful. You are so amazing, Richard. You're
I do
so
eat
amazing.
out quite a lot. So today was a big day because we had this incredible situation where we had these 8 people who'd never met each other all meet up.
How did that
Um,
happen? How did that happen? How does that happen?
Well, one was an artist from Ibiza, a
Mhm,
rising star called
mhm.
Sequin K, who I met
Okay,
at a gig recently, charity gig.
cool.
Then there was another woman who's an actress. There was another lady who's a best-selling author. There was a guy who runs a film studio called Vincent Woods, who's also a filmmaker, ordering filmmaker. There was Bruno Tilly, the absolute iconic,
Bruno Tilly.
creative.
Yeah, that's familiar.
Island Records. He shot Buffalo Soldier for Bob Marley and
What?
did the Legend album cover.
Oh my
U2, Robert
gosh.
Palmer, Stevie Winwood, Kid Creole and the Coconuts, Zulu,
Wow.
Aswad. You know, shot Misha
Woo!
Paris, Grace Jones, of course. All the
Oh
artists
my
between
gosh.
1980 and 1990. Bruno Tilly came along. He lives nearby.
Oh
We
my
went to
gosh.
a hotel called the Pig, a boutique hotel.
What's
Beautiful
it called?
place.
What's it called?
The Pig Bridge near very near Canterbury, which is a historic town here.
Cool.
Canterbury is a lovely town. Anyway, we all met, and it was a lovely lunch. And a guy called Alex Brownless, who runs Arts Thread, the biggest emerging artist platform in the world for, people who are actual fine artists or,
Oh,
you know,
nice.
art.
It's called Arts Bridge.
Yeah, it's called
Arts.
Arts Thread. It's called.
Do they have a website? Arts
Yeah, oh,
Thread.
yeah. Arts Thread,
Artsthread.com.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so he'd spoken to me on the phone, but he'd never ever met me, and he was curious. So he wanted to come and see how I roll. So I invited him. Then I had a lawyer there, who's a lovely lady who I know, and I had then a casting director, and so it was 8 people around a table. It's lovely.
So,
Lovely.
what was the opening of the? How did you have 8 people that have never met
It was.
each other?
I worked out who should meet who, and it actually flowed extremely well. And then there was a few random,
Encounters.
situations where one person at one end just went to the other end. They started speaking to someone, and they knew mutual friends in the industry, and it was all that kind of thing. Yeah, but it
Very
was definitely
cool.
art, more art and film, but a bit of music thrown in. So that was a good
Nice.
one. And I wore this shirt, and I'm like, it's the first time I've worn this shirt actually.
I
It
love
was
it. I
last of
love
the
your
summer.
shirt. The Last
It's
of the
very
Summer.
fun.
That sounds like a movie right there. I'm wanting the Lollipop movie to be made by Tarantino. I'm going to have to second
Lollipop
that emotion.
Lounge is a great book. I mean, it's her life and career story. Genya Ravan, Ravan, wonderful woman, survivor. Rock and roll survivor. She's got so many great stories in that book. Unbelievable stories.
Amazing, Richard.
And then I got another book sent to me recently by an early 80s musician, a guy called Ian Donaldson, who was in a band called H2O. Ian's written this book, and
Which one is that one? A rainbow in the
well, there's a reflection.
basement. A rainbow in the basement. Oh, I love that cover too.
Yeah, and then I've got Deela Bricelli in York, a fine artist who oh my God, she's had a right life. That's Deela's book. Hang on.
Trying to see that. Which one is this one now?
Florence, is that in the camera? Can you see that?
Yeah. I want to actually make. I'm gonna solo you. Hold on one second.
And so she is a woman who.
Let's see that. Bring that one back. Will you bring that one back? Yeah, I just want to see it. I want to see it full on. Okay, there we go.
Is that good?
Yeah, the title is again?
Florence of Arabia.
Oh, Florence of Arabia. So what is this about?
It's a global gripping adventure. I can't tell you the whole story, but she's certainly worked in fashion and art, and oh my God, had a real life. It's written so beautifully. It deserves to be made into a television series, to be honest.
So I mean, I call you the iconic producer because I feel like you somehow are a producer, making things. I mean, you're an introducer, but you're
introducer is more accurate. I have produced the song with Andy Ross and Benny Troy. I have actually physically done that. I produced another song called Mama Lou, a new club mix, an early 70s hit song in the Benelux countries by a band called the Les Humphreys Singers, and it was a great song. And I produced it co-produced it with the guy who was the one of the singers in the band, and we did a really good mix of it. It's on YouTube, Mama Lou Club Mix.
Mama Lou Club Mix.
It's like a sort of a gospely type song, gospely pop with a sort of there's a rapper that comes in the middle of it. It's quite cool. Anyway.
So the reason I say that I think that you're a producer, you produce relationships. I mean, you
there you go.
Do produce relationships. Yeah. Because I keep I each time I want to say iconic introductor, I say iconic producer because you're producing these relationships where people are ending up building together. That's huge. I mean, the world was built on one introduction, you could say.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that the more people you introduce, the more chances they've got of being successful. You don't want to overload someone with too many introductions. They won't be able to handle it. They'd probably fail. I mean, yeah, I've done lots of intros. Hundreds, thousands. I've never taken count. but a lot of them have been successful. But then a lot of them have failed. You know, you've got to
Yeah,
remember that. You know how you learn by your mistakes, or you learn by your
absolutely.
failures,
You hope.
and
You hope to. Yes.
yeah, and you try your best. And
Mm.
there have been instances where you've introduced two amazing people that, in their own right, are very well known and that they're really successful. But when they
Mhm.
go together, they just can't make it together.
And
It's really
why
weird.
these strong personalities though? That's like a big problem. That's like,
Egos,
yeah,
egos. I
I
mean,
know.
Adam Shaw, my current host of the Function at Lunch Club, is a great guy, by the way. Adam
The
Shaw,
Funky Shirt Club. Say it again. You want?
Funky Shirt Lunch Club.
I want to be in it.
I'm sorry if I'm shouting, but I can't hear because I've got these headphones
You're
on.
not
Anyway,
shouting. I think I might have just
um,
shouted. Sorry. I said
no,
I
no,
want
no,
to
no,
be in.
no, no,
I
no.
want to be
So
in that club, the Funky
we
Shirt
we
Club.
we 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 have these
Funky
events
Shirt.
mainly at the Grove Hotel, which is a boutique hotel.
Mm.
The one we did at the Pig yesterday was just a one-off, and we do, like, 8 to 10 people at a time. It's enough. I've done a big 60-person event in January at Vince Wood's Film Studios. That was iconic. That was
Yeah.
unbelievable. The people that were there. There were
60.
rising stars like Harry, Courtney, Harrison Hickman, and of course Emma Hames and this Katharina Benjamin. They came to the film
Are we gonna
studios.
meet some of these people that these
We're
Emma
gonna
Hayes?
we're
Okay.
gonna we're gonna we're gonna have them on the show. I mean,
Okay.
there's going to be 3 of us. There'll be you, me, and there'll be the star.
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
not the stars,
Yeah.
those
Hold on.
stars.
Speaking of which, we need a jingle for our show.
Wow. Okay.
I
Um,
think now is a
mm,
very
mm,
good
mm.
moment
Well, you've sort of
to
put me on the spot, really, but I think we've got to say something like, "We're here to lift you up. We are a no. We are a shoulder to lean on when
okay.
times are tough.
Okay. Let me
When
just
times get tough, we are a shoulder to lean on, and to
insert.
lift
Yeah, I'm
to pick
listening.
pick you up or lift you up and take you to another high or level." I mean, I'm not a lyricist. Sorry.
Excellent. You're excellent. Hold on. I'm just setting up the studio. Keep going. I'm listening.
Okay. I think it's got to be an inspirational, upbeat song, catchy, and yeah.
So I've got the studio set up here, and now
Well,
I want you to run through one more time what you just said because I'm going to do my very best to get us to where we want to be with this one here.
I think the message of the song is, you know, we are the sort of blue sky.
Do we want it to be upbeat?
Oh, absolutely upbeat. Yeah, yeah.
So we are the blue sky. We are the
We can lift you up above the clouds.
We are the blue sky. We can lift you above into the clouds, rising stars far and wide. We are a night filled with stars of rising, tides of greatness intertwined. Everybody rise, everybody rise, everybody rise, everybody rising, stars rising, stars rising, stars we are. I think that's pretty good. What do you think?
It's about, yeah, we're going to help people out. Absolutely.
All
Well, we're
right.
giving them this will be their platform to say all about, what they've been trying to achieve, what their dreams are, their hopes.
I
And
love it. I love
yeah,
it. I just want to
we'll
say
help them out.
thank you, Richard. I'm super excited. I think our first
Ooh.
episode is going to be on October 22nd, which is the last episode of Music Train. We will be
Okay.
starting 1 hour sooner at 7 Eastern. That will be our episode 1 with Mr. Courtney. And
lovely.
I'm
Yep.
really, really excited to meet him. And I don't think there is a better person that could co-host this with me besides you. I don't
Oh, you're
believe
so
it.
kind. I feel so sort of like humbled, really, because I think
I
what
feel
you've
humbled.
done on your own without me is a fantastic
And I've
achievement.
done nothing on my own, just to clarify. Big up
No,
to
but if
Metaverse
people,
Generation and BK Han for really kind of igniting me with just basically teaching me the tools of the trade, things like
Mm.
StreamYard. Big up to StreamYard, platforms like this that you can simulcast on. And see, the dog is barking. We have some guests
I
coming.
love dogs. Oh, I love dogs. They're
Yes,
great. Yeah,
you are
yeah.
an animal lover. You're an
Big
animal,
time.
you
Oh
know,
yeah, all my life, all my life.
which is a
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful cause. And I still, of course, want to know so much more about you, but we will close our show for today. And a big
Well,
hug and kiss from Chicago, from me to you.
to you
And
and your family and your loved ones, and also to anyone watching. You know, we're here to help you.
yes,
I mean, I don't know how long we're going to give the Rising Stars, but I think 45 minutes, an hour.
perfect. And I think, if you're a rising star, you feel that you have something to share and that people are listening more and more every day, or you'd like them to, definitely reach out to me at VESSY MINK everywhere, especially on X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and of course, Richard Selwyn Barnett, my co-host, is here. You can find him on LinkedIn. He gave me a shot. He gave me a chance, and now we're doing a show together called Rising Stars. So
Absolutely.
definitely reach out to us, and everybody take care out there. Don't forget that actually we are all stars. And also remember that if you acknowledge the talent in someone, you're acknowledging your ability to actually grow love within a community ultimately, because if you give somebody the time of day, they can kind of do their thing and become who they're meant to be. And so there's nothing better than that. I think that's love.
Love to all.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard. Thank
And love
you.
to you and
Thank
everybody.
you.
And thank you for having me on your very first episode of Rising
Launch
Stars.
party. Let's go.
Co-host. Woohoo! Woohoo! I can't wait. Looking forward to Harry Courtney.
October 22nd, 7 p.m.
Absolutely.
Eastern. We'll see you then.
Wow. All
Bye,
righty.
everybody. Enjoy the
Bye.
music train. It's coming up next. Ciao.
Okay.